Guys, I'm here with Jhana Li, traveling all the way from Utah.
Like everything that I now know about business and operations started back at that very first agency. Like read a book, implement tomorrow, see what happens, iterate, try again.
Yeah.
And like that was the learning curve that taught me operations, that like set me down the career path in the business that I have today.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be anywhere without that opportunity. There were 500 plus agency owners in that community. And so from an operations perspective, everything we did had to scale 500x. Just like the sheer data download that I got in such a short amount of time gave me all of the knowledge and information that I now use to like build the foundation of my own business and like coach and feel confident coaching and going to other businesses of all types of different shapes, sizes, and models because I've learned from hundreds of businesses, not two.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 5 of Make America Remote Again. And in this episode, I had the pleasure to interview my good friend, Jhana Li, who I've known for many years. And we actually used to work together at the same agency. And I got a chance to see Jhana grow from an assistant to an account manager, operations specialist, all the way to an operations manager. She helped us scale to hundreds of clients and also being able to give us back our time so we don't go crazy. But Jhana had a bigger mission. She didn't want to help just one agency. She wanted to help hundreds of agencies, and that is exactly what she did. She is responsible of helping hundreds of agencies with their operations and being able to scale to millions of dollars. And fun fact, I actually met one of her clients this past weekend at Creator Fest. His name is Connor. He's the founder of Story, and he was telling me how Jhana was able to give him back all his time so he can finally scale the business and also enjoy his life in Utah. So enjoy this episode, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode of Make America Remote Again, baby. Let's go.
This has been coming along together now for, I would say, the last 4 years.
Something
We're going on 4 years now. Guys, I'm here with Jhana Li, traveling all the way from Utah, and I've known Jhana for like over 4 years. I've known her for like 5.5, almost 6 years. I want to dive into what she's been up to for the last 4.5 years because it's been incredible to see her speaking on stages, connecting with some of the most powerful leaders in the space, and just being able to really grow her brand. Many years ago, she was very opposed to growing her brand, and we all begged her. I'm like, please, Jhana, make content. Please speak on stages. And here we are, Jhana. How are you?
I'm doing so well, dude.
Yes,
I'm so happy to be here with you.
I love it. I love it. So I want to take it back to like right around like 2019 to 2020, right?
Okay.
We were both working at Atlas Digital,
Yep.
7-figure agency. The first time you and I both worked for remote companies, I would say, like real remote companies.
Yep.
And like, what was like your biggest lessons there? Because I think a lot of people affiliate us so much to Atlas Digital and Joel Kaplan, Marcos, like all the stuff that we went through. But like, what were your biggest lessons just going from, you know, you were just a college girl basically to Atlas Digital and like COO, like holy shit, like everything happened so quick. And I just remember everything happened so fast,
It really
where it was
did.
like, you gotta figure it out fast. So like, what was your biggest lessons, like the 2019, 2020 era?
I mean, honestly, like everything that I now know about business and operations started back at that very first agency, right? Having an agency to not know what the fuck you're doing, but have the right mentors, really like pour into yourself and your own learning curve, and then have this kind of practice business to like try things and see how it goes and learn so quickly, not by theoretical learning, but like read a book, implement tomorrow, see what happens, iterate, try again. And like that was the learning curve that taught me operations, that like set me down the career path in the business that I have today. I wouldn't be anywhere without that opportunity. It set the foundation for everything that I was able to build on top of it.
I love it. And then we go into the 2020 era. And I mean, we hit like record months, back to back. We were growing, hiring all my high school friends. Like literally, it's just like, that's still the funniest thing to me. And then we end up in Colombia, March 2020. Right. And I always tell people, you're gonna love this. I always tell people, like, we found out about Alex Hormozi before anyone. And I always tell people, we found out about him when he was like broke. He was only doing like $30 or $40 million a year.
Is that right?
Yeah. You know? Oh yeah. So, but we entered that era of, you know, remote work really being enforced. And then right around that time, I think things started to get a little bit, you know, kind of crazy. And I think we both realized that where we are right now is not where we're going to be. And then you made the transition to like more of the high ticket space. In your opinion, what was the hardest transition of going from like the agency game to like a high ticket program, and I mean, it was a completely different offer.
Totally.
What was that transition like for people that are watching this and they're like, yeah, I want to get into high ticket, I'm selling like agencies, I want to go into coaching, yada, yada.
That's interesting. Yeah, so I became the COO for Agency Lab with Joel Kaplan.
Yeah.
And I mean, not only was it a completely different business model, right?
Yeah.
Coaching program versus agency, but just the volume and the scale was different. There were 500 plus agency owners in that community. And so from an operations perspective, everything we did had to scale 500x, right? And so it's just a way bigger team, way bigger infrastructure. And the real opportunity for me coming out of that was, like, I learned a lot as COO, but I learned the most as the operations coach in that community. I was the ops coach for 500 agency owners for 2.5 years. I got the data from 500 businesses. Where else would I have gotten that kind of opportunity?
Nowhere.
And so just like the sheer data download that I got in such a short amount of time gave me all of the knowledge and information that I now use to like build the foundation of my own business and like coach and feel confident coaching and going to other businesses of all types of different shapes, sizes, and models, because I've learned from hundreds of businesses, not two.
Yeah. And before we dive into your business, because I definitely want to dive into that, we were just laughing how we were both here in Colombia together for the first time.
Dude, and then, we were lockdown buddies.
Literally for 2 months. I get like goosebumps about it still today. And it was just like, it was a pivotal time for both of us, even though both of us were working for companies. I think you and I both kind of came down to it to like, we got to do something different. Like, there's got to be something else for us there. Yeah. And I'll never forget this. You probably don't remember this, but a month before we went to Vegas.
Okay.
We were at 10X.
I remember.
And you asked me, I vividly remember this. You're like, we're kind of walking through the casino and you go, hey, like, what do you want to do? Like, I'm like, and I was making good money. I was making 15, 20, 25K a month. You're like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I'm going to say, like, is that it? I'm like, I don't know, I guess. And it stuck in me. I was like, yeah, fuck, is this all I want to do? Like, I want to do, I think there's more out there. And I think when you asked me that, you like also like, subconsciously, I was asking yourself that too,
100%.
Planted the seed.
Yeah.
And so we're together, like, 8 weeks, like it was like 5 of us. And obviously then, pandemic kind of started slowing down, I'd say. So the world was kind of going crazy.
I think we just realized that, like, if we were going to get out of Colombia, we should probably fucking go.
Yeah.
It was
we
like
were
one
stuck.
flight a month out of Colombia at that point.
I always tell people, because I feel bad, because I'm sure you talk to a lot of people that they had like the worst pandemic. They lost like loved ones. We had the best pandemic ever. Nice. We lived with 2 dogs in this beautiful house. We had a pool. It was just like, I don't know how much better it could have been for the situation we were in,
100%.
So then you start working with Joel, right? 2 years go by, and then obviously around there is where you probably started thinking, okay, there's all these people that are wanting my help, where I'm a little bit limited doing this with Joel. Like, it's either one or. You can't coach people all day. And then probably around there is where Spyglass came out.
Yeah. I think I had when it was time for me to kind of part ways and do the next thing, I had the choice between get another COO role, serve one CEO, serve one vision, serve one kind of way of impacting the world, or take what I've learned and build it into a vehicle that has the potential to serve at first tens of businesses, and then it was hundreds of businesses, and one day it'll be thousands of businesses, right? Like for me, it came down to scale and impact. If I was a COO for one person, then I would only ever serve one person. It took a big identity shift for me to step out of the COO role and become my own CEO, but I did it because it allowed me to unlock the amount of value that I could bring to a much wider audience.
100%. It's like one of the things I'm so grateful for Joel Marcos, and really when Joel started the coaching is because he gave us the audience to go
100%.
Like, I don't think, and if you and I started our business in the 2021, 2022, it would have been so fucking hard. Like it would have taken like ages to get where we are today. So like putting us in front of like hundreds of people on a regular basis, building our brand,
our organic network,
100%. So you started like finding out more about people's operations, and I know like obviously a lot of the clients you work with, you even coached my business partner Esteban, for a little bit. So he always gives you a lot of props. What was the first thing when you first moved the transition to Spyglass? What was the first thing that you thought to yourself, all right, I have something here. Like I have all these clients. What was the one thing you're like, I need to go all in on this? And it's not just like the operations, but what was that? I'm so curious about this.
Yeah, it was the transition from when I started, I was just doing like direct fractional ops work. I grabbed a handful of clients, people who already wanted to work with me more. And I picked up my first couple of clients really easily. About 6 months in, I was working with maybe like 5-6 clients, and I looked at my schedule and I was completely maxed out. Like 40 hours of calls every week just to serve 5 clients, 6 clients. And I was like, all right, again, I hit a limit, right? Like the limit was my time and what I could do as an individual and direct consultant. And so it was right around there that I made the decision to build a coaching program and bring in my first hire. And that was really like the transition moment between having just like a consultant, like I'm a consultant, I'm a freelancer, towards I have a business and I'm a CEO. We built the coaching program, the very first iteration of like Ops Academy, which is still our, one of our core offers. And I think my first cohort had like, I don't know, 4 people in it, 5 people in it. I was selling it for like $3K or something ridiculous. And it's just like grown and scaled from there. But really it was the shift towards from freelance to coaching program and like coaching model that uncapped. Again, it came down to impact and scale. Like I can only work with 6 clients or I can build a coaching program and I could work with hundreds of clients.
And that's like a huge like shift that you had to make.
100%.
And I had that same type of thought too when I first kind of, started my thing and I felt capped. And it's funny because I'm kind of going through that now where I'm like, okay.
This podcast is brought to you by Remote Latinos. Remote Latinos is a world-class recruiting company that helps companies scale by finding the best talent in the world. We've hired over 1,000 people, and if you're watching this and you're looking to hire someone else, head over there, remotelatinos.com, link in the bio, book a call with our team and let us help you out. This podcast is also sponsored by our community in school. If you're interested in real estate, whether it's wholesaling, fix and flipping, or even Airbnbs, we have a community with nearly 1,000 people that share everything they know about real estate. We go live every single week, do a Q&A. This is absolutely free. And our ultimate goal is just to provide you guys value and connect with more real estate investors, wholesalers, fix and flippers, or really entrepreneurs that are interested in real estate.
Did you ever feel the fear of scaling and not being able to deliver?
I mean, fear of being able to deliver, no. Like I think I have always put my product and my clients first, maybe too much, like at the expense of sales and marketing sometimes. But fear of being able to provide for my team, yes.
Okay.
Like when I made the decision to scale, I took on, I internalized a lot of the responsibility around running a team, and that is what keeps me up at night.
What was the shift you made in your mind where you're like, I gotta grow a brand? Like I gotta actually like start posting. I gotta like, cause you were low key when you first started too.
Dude, totally.
Like you were super low key.
Yeah.
And Joel and I were begging, cause Joel was begging me to do this when I was with Atlas. He was like, bro, you gotta make content about chiropractors. Like, I don't give a fuck about chiropractors. What was the like shift? Cause it was not that recent, but it was definitely not like 2-3 years ago.
No, for sure. I mean, I think I got really consistent about it, honestly, like start of 2023. So a little over a year.
Okay.
And what it came down to for me, cause I went back and forth on this for so long. Like the reality is, dude, is like, I don't love being on social media. I like being in the mountains, right? My whole life is built around being disconnected from technology. So why am I going to bring my phone and my camera into that situation? What changed it for me is that honestly, like I genuinely felt like I had something to say that other people weren't talking about. Operations is not sexy. Operations is the freaking black sheep of the business family. It's not well understood. Like I talk to multi-7-figure business owners who still can't really tell me what operations is or why it's important, right? So in that space, if I'm going to make a stand for ops, if I'm going to serve these people, there's an education component
100%.
to that has to happen.
100%.
And there's a lot of misinformation or just no information. Like there's no thought leaders for ops out there. And so it really happened out of like a feeling of like, I'm not just going to be another like piece of noise in a sea of noise. Like I have a unique opinion. I have a lot of data to back it up. No one else is talking about this and someone's got to do it.
I love that. And by the way, for those of you watching, listening, the reason we just dove into like 2020, 2021 is because Jhana has done a ton of podcasts. So if you want to get to know her story,
there you go.
You can like go watch that. And I want to make this a little bit different because we have a unique relationship because we've known each other for so many years. So you started getting into brand and then you now focus on helping majority of our agency owners, consultants, coaches with their operations.
Yeah, it's digital startups. So e-com, SaaS, agency, coach, consultant, info product. If you're running a digital tech stack and generally a remote team, those are our ideal clients and we can help you out.
Interesting. And then you guys are basically coaching the people or you guys are also placing like operational people?
We do both. Nice. So the way we work with our clients is we essentially come in, we do a company-wide audit and we say like, okay, Omir, like where do you want to be 12 months from now? Where do you want your business to be?
like 200K a month, let's say.
Great. So let's say you want to get to 200K a month. Let's say that's double your business. I don't know.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So you want to 2x your business in the next 12 months. My team goes in and we'll build out a 12-month roadmap, the step-by-step game plan to scale the operations that will be capable of scaling your business to 200K a month.
Cool.
So we lay it all out in a game plan. We identify whether you have the right operator in your team to like plug in, and we can coach that person and train that person and work through that person to get the job done. Or if you don't, we'll recruit that person. And then we'll coach them, we'll work with them on a weekly basis to make all of those changes in your business so that you get all the ops transformation, but you don't actually have to do your own operations because you're a sales guy CEO, like not your job.
100%. It's actually the most stressful part of my business.
I believe
is
it.
The operationals back end. I mean, you've dealt with so many people, probably similar to me, where we started our business because of our sales. We started our business because we're good at sales, so making money is very easy. But I'm sure you already know this about me, is like, I don't only care about sales, I care about people's results and getting testimonials, and like that brings me way more happiness than when you first start Atlas. When I was, it's like, oh my God, sales. And then like, okay, and then I start selling like, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, and I'm like, I want people to get results. I think that's super important. So let's talk a little bit about your hiring history, because this is very interesting, because the first person you hired was someone you knew, right?
The first person I ever hired?
It wasn't the girl from Colorado that, like,
the first person in my business. Yep, 100%.
So tell us this little story about this, because it's an uncommon hire, because usually people hire VA when they're first hiring. So like, how did that happen? Tell us a little bit about that story.
So the first person I hired, she's an old friend, and she was a pretty high level person already to start. Like, she had a great background in organization and project management and these sorts of things. And the reason that I hired her is because, number one, I was building out my coaching program. And so I needed somebody to handle, like, I interestingly, and this is actually, I think, something that I would have done differently, Omir, if I could go back and do it again. So this is what I did, is that I knew that there was a lot of operational know-how that was necessary for me to deliver and fulfill on my product, right? We were still doing audits all the way back then. The audit was the very first thing I ever came up with.
Like an audit for the business?
For the business, for the client, right? And we were selling that separately. But I knew that I couldn't both build and scale a coaching program and continue to do these audits all by myself, because they're like 30 to 40 hours a week to get one done. And so I brought somebody in who could help me on that side and take some of that bandwidth off so that I could scale this second product. That being said, I hired in my own zone of excellence, right? Like, I'm pretty good at operations. I could have fucking done it. I could have figured it out. And I wanted more. I wanted a mini me to like kind of help do what I was doing, but just increase,
scale it, kind of like
increase bandwidth.
That,
If I could do it again, I would have hired, and this is what I advise my clients to do, like, I would have started by hiring in like my zone of incompetence and competence. I would have started by hiring on the front end. Marketing, sales, these are the things that I've had to learn because I'm not as experienced in them. And my business has grown, frankly, a lot slower as a result, because I started with what I was familiar with, which was the back end of the business.
Interesting. So when you now talk to operational people, this is like a couple part question. What, for people, at what point does someone need to hire an operational person? Because I think that's like a very confusing thing for people. That think some 10K a month agencies think they clearly have operational problems, but they're definitely not ready for an operational manager. So like, at what point does someone come to you where it like makes sense for them to partner with a company like yours?
And your audience is mostly agency owners.
Agency owners, investors, like people that run remote companies.
Perfect. So I would say in the agency space specifically, you're looking at an ops manager hire somewhere between I recommend like the 30 to 50K per month revenue mark. You can push beyond that, but if you're pushing beyond that, recognize that you're leaving a lot of money on the table, because as you get bigger and bigger, your operational inefficiencies are stacking up and up and up. You're losing more money every single month, and at that point, it really is worth paying some money to save even more money. So that's generally in the agency space what I see. If you're a high ticket consultant and you're working with 10 clients and you're making 200K months, you probably don't need an operator as badly because you only got 10 clients to manage, right?
It's not hard.
So it kind of depends on the business model, but essentially it's like, when does the operational complexity of the business and the dropped balls that are starting to happen and the underperforming team and the crossed wires and all of these little things that are eating up your time and energy, it's costing you a lot of money. When you're at that point, it's time to bring in an operator, because first and foremost, they're going to optimize you and get your time back so that you can turn around and start growing the business again.
By the way, guys, if you're watching this is actually a sales pitch for me to get into this podcast. So I'm actually, but no, okay. So you've been talking to agencies a lot, obviously, and consultants. What is like one problem, let's say 2 or 3 problems that you've noticed over the last year that people don't think about?
When it comes to operations?
Yeah, when it comes to operations, they think that they either got it handled or it's like they can skip over it or whatever the case is that you notice.
Yep.
Every time you get on calls with them, you're like, holy shit, this is like something that consistently is happening with people here.
So I think the first one we kind of just touched on, which is people don't recognize the cost of not having the right operator in the role.
Okay.
So to give you an explicit example of this, a client and a friend of mine brought in a COO, and within the first week, that COO had saved him over $100,000 because he caught one mistake in how they were building out their campaigns and their fulfillment process, right? So like the challenge with operations is that it's all this, I think of like, if your business is a bucket, every bucket has gaps and leaks and holes. And as your business grows and the water line increases, those gaps are getting wider. The hard thing is that sometimes the gaps are hard to notice. It's actually not your job to notice. Your job is to pour more water into the bucket. But the gaps are there, they're widening, they're costing you more, and you almost don't even realize it. And so that's why most people wait way too long to bring in an operator. They don't really know what to do with that operator once they bring them in, because your operator can look at a business and be like, gap, hole, leak, neon frickin' sign about how you're losing all of this money. But a CEO who doesn't know how to manage that person or give them the autonomy to do that is like treating them like an executive assistant, treating them like a project manager, right?
Yeah.
The gaps are still there. They're still costing you a bunch of money. And you don't have the right team or the right person in the role to like point that out to you and start keeping that money. Like, it's money that you've already generated, right? It's money that's already in your ecosystem. It's just leaking out of the bucket. Their job is to close the gaps, and all of that just becomes profit. Like, it's money that stays in your pocket.
I love that. So with that this is the trickiest part, because I bet a lot of people are doing this. They're promoting people within to be operational managers. And I feel like, I might be wrong, but I feel like most of the time it's a mistake.
Sure. So more specifically than that, I would say about 40% of the time it's a mistake, because we work with these clients, right? Like what we do in our audit is we'll interview your operator. We'll give them a little like boop, boop, DNA scan about whether they have the operational chops or not. And if they do, then we're going to recommend that you put them in a training program, because it's going to be way cheaper than trying to bring somebody in, batteries included, outside, right? So I think it's an awesome option if you have the right person for the role. But like a detail-oriented account manager is not necessarily an amazing ops manager.
A really high-level executive assistant.
100%. A like super data nerdy systems dude.
No.
There's a lot of people associated with the role, right? So to be a really competent ops manager is kind of its own thing. We get a lot of account managers that become amazing ops managers, but those two are not the same skill set. They just happen to correlate sometimes.
Yeah, and I think, because the reason I said that is because I'm in that mode right now where I'm like,
are you thinking about it?
I'm definitely at a point where we're like looking. It's just more of the, do I have someone in place? I've made mistakes putting people in the wrong seats when they were in the right seat. And then I wanted to give them a bigger opportunity, help them make more money, more this, more that. And then it didn't happen, you know?
Yes,
you know what I mean? So
here's the biggest mistake that I see people make, is that they will promote their top performer. I see this all the time in sales, right? I'm going to take my best salesperson, I'm going to make them my head of sales.
Sales manager.
What does a sales manager do? They're not closing deals.
No,
they're reviewing calls. They're doing training. They're having leadership team huddles. They're doing all kinds of stuff.
That's not sales.
That has nothing to do with sales, right? And so they're miserable because they can't get on a call and do the thing that they love and the thing that they do best. The company is suffering because they're not doing a good job, right? So if you're going to promote somebody into any kind of management role, they have to be a better manager than they were a performer in that role. Otherwise, don't pull them out of their zone of genius. Keep them in their role and give them an opportunity to grow there.
I love that. I have a really fucking good question. By the way, I hope you're enjoying this, because I'm loving this. All right. So how do you tell your companies that are hiring a probation, whether it's from you, whether they're found someone on LinkedIn, Indeed, and then this person comes into the company and now they have to manage people to a certain degree that have been there for 2, 3, 4 years, that have connection with the CEO, they have built relationships, and now this new person comes in and now basically is their manager. That to me is like the hardest part about it's not like obviously finding the person, training, but them coming to, and being an exact cultural fit, treating everybody the same. And keep in mind, we're all remote team members. So I have a team in the Philippines, I have a team in Colombia, I have a team in Portugal. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you like mend them to make sure that things don't break from the start?
100%. So a couple of points. Number one, like, make sure that you're putting the right person in the right role. You mentioned culture fit. The right hiring funnel should guarantee that you're bringing somebody in who's a culture fit. That should never be an issue. And if it is, you hired the wrong person.
For sure.
Then there's the skill fit, right? And again, an ops manager has to be good at two things: operations and management is right there in the title, right? So you could bring in somebody who has all the knowledge around systems and process, but if they can't manage people, including getting buy-in from people, earning the respect of people, knowing how to lead people, knowing how to change the behaviors and habits of people, you're not going to be a very effective operator, right? And so the right ops manager is coming in with those skill sets, or you're taking that person and you're training them up to develop those skill sets. Because with either of those missing, they're not going to be set up for success in the role. And it doesn't matter if you have an in-person team or remote team, like, do you understand people and do you understand how to manage them?
Is that something that can be taught?
Yes, 100%. Like, I was not a very good manager. Maybe you remember, I wasn't a very good manager of people.
With salespeople, only with salespeople. Everybody else she was getting along with, but the salespeople was just like the worst.
I learned a lot from that, by the way. But yeah, like I wasn't naturally gifted, I would say, at leading and managing. I studied it really fucking hard. It took 3 years, and now we've shrunk that down into maybe 3 months worth of training inside my curriculum. So yes, it can be learned.
So when you're looking at an operational manager, right? Let's say they come in, what do you look for? If you were hiring an operational manager today, what is it that you're looking for, like just the top like bullet points? Yep,
100%. So every amazing operator that I know has the exact same lens and way of looking at, yes, business, but really just the world. They are intrinsically like systems-oriented, efficiency-oriented people. When I look at a business, even when I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, like, before I even knew what operations was, I was having conversations with Joel and Marcos about the agency, and it was so obvious to me where the gaps were. Like, it was just intuitive. I didn't know what I was doing, but it just felt so obvious. And when I talked to them about it, they're like, what are you talking about? This is fine, right? So every operator I know has that intuition, and it comes from being really systems oriented and process oriented and seeing, like, I see how all of these pieces fit together. I see how this thing over here affects this thing over here. I see how this thing is about to like blow up in our faces 3 months from now, right? Like, I just see it that way. And so when we do our operator DNA scan, that's what we're looking for more than anything else. And it kind of takes one to know one, but like, sit me down in front of an operator, I can tell you in 10 minutes. Sit me down in front of somebody who could have the perfect resume, but doesn't have that lens, and I won't train them because they'll only ever be good. And I want to make people who are great.
Do you think thank you, great answer, by the way. Do you think it's possible to have someone start at a lower position and then move them up as an operational manager? Like, if you were bringing someone into a new company, I always like, this is something that I have not done yet. And Esteban just did it I want to say it's the first time he's ever hired a manager for his company.
Okay.
He's had like leaders. He's built a multi-seven-figure agency. But he just finally hired a sales manager, right? For the first time. Manager, this guy, 1 week, got on calls, understood the process, now he's managing, like you said, not closing. Is it better to start somewhere at a lower level and kind of like have them move up? Or is it like from day one? Because I feel like if you bring in an operational manager, I'm thinking like day one, you're just taking here's everything wrong with my company, fix it.
Again, it's about like, I think about money and time as balance, like either sides of a balance on a scale, right? The more you have of one, the less you need of the other. So if you've got a lot of money, don't spend time training somebody up, leveling them up, like slowly working with them over 3, 6, 9 months to become competent and able in the role. Hire in, like Hermosi calls it, the batteries included person, right? Like, hire in that person who can just come in, tell you everything that's wrong, and take it all off your plate and get going. If you have more time than money, aka you just don't have a lot of money, so you have to devote time to it, right? Then hire in or internally promote that more entry-level position, get them training, get them coaching, or do that I actually don't do that yourself, but level them up, right? Like, hire in an expert, bring in an expert who can work with them to level them up in the role. And we've taken people from 0 ops experience, literally no direct experience or training, to like COOs, right? Like, you can go 0 to 60 with them. Does it take time? Yeah, it takes 9 to 12 months. But you will be saving so much money every step of the way because you're not paying a COO salary, but you're getting COO level caliber.
Yes. All right, I love it. I just recently saw that you were you spoke at Agency Founder event. I wasn't there, unfortunately, so I would love to know what were the top 3 things that you talked about that you shared with the room, because I very much love and respect Eddie and Ashton and many people in the room. So what were the top 3 things that you talked about in there?
And by the way, guys, I think we're going to be posting that on my new YouTube channel.
Let's go, YouTube channel, subscribe, let's go.
So go follow me on YouTube, you can get the whole talk there. The core concept of my talk was, how do you create freedom within your agency? There were some heavy hitting agencies in that room doing serious numbers. But I opened the talk by asking how many people could step away from their business for a full day and feel okay about that, like not check Slack, not check email. Maybe 80% of the room raised their hand. Then I said, how many people could step away for a week? 20 to 30% of the room still had their hand up. How many people could step away for a month? It was 3 people. In a room of 250 people.
And high level people too.
High level people, right? And so these are creative, hardworking, intelligent people that can solve any fucking problem. But only 3 of them have figured out how to actually achieve freedom, which I also pulled the room. 90% of them would say was like a key motivator behind them starting their agency in the first place. But only 3 of them have gotten there, right? So that was how I opened, because the whole idea behind operations is that it is a lever for growth and it is a lever for freedom. My operations are so tight that I went and I rafted the Grand Canyon for a full month, was completely offline for a full month, and everything was fine. Everything was fine.
So much anxiety just
not only fine, dude. My team built and launched a new sales and marketing system while I was out.
Insane. That's
right?
insane.
Because so it's all around team. How do you build a team? How do you create a high performance team environment and team culture, so that when you have the right people in the right roles with the right environment around them, they don't need you there every single day. They are their own problem solvers, their own critical thinkers. They're not coming to you all the time. Like, my team doesn't come to me for shit. They just solve things and then tell me what they did, right? And so how did I build that? How should you build that? That was essentially what the talk was about.
That was one of the hardest transitions, and I think even I'm still experiencing that, but way less than I did last year, is being removed from when someone would come to me, I would come with the answer instead of like challenging them.
It's the hardest thing, dude.
But now it's like, because I was so in it, you know, where now I can take 1-2 days, but then 1 week it's like, damn, not yet. But I definitely see that it's possible. Like I see it because I know that it's possible. And then you say that, and I know the reason you ask that is not because you're gonna go and drink mimosas on the beach and then do nothing. It's because how automated, how systemized, how tight are your systems and operations where you can leave? Because life is crazy, dude. Like,
shit happens.
I always think like, this is fucked up, but it's like, things are going so good. Like in my personal life, at least, right? Where I'm like, anything, any snap just can, and then I have to step away, and then what? Like, because I always think about that. I'm like, fuck, like I gotta like tighten my shit. But I'm sure that so many other businesses are like that. I'm sure most businesses are like that too.
Well, and here's the thing, right? Because some people might be listening right now and be like, yeah, but I don't want to step away for a month, so I don't need that. The same shit that allows you to step away for a month is the same stuff that allows you to scale better, scale faster, scale with less friction, scale with a better team, not hate your life because your team is underperforming and driving you crazy every single day. So even if you didn't choose, right? Like, you don't have to choose what I chose and go fuck off for a month. Whatever you choose, you have the flexibility and option to do so. And even if you choose to stay, if you're pouring into your business day after day, you're doing the highest value things that you should actually be doing because you're the CEO, founder of the company. And when you're putting all of your time and energy into that, then your business is growing exponentially faster than if you're buried in the weeds, you're stuck doing low leverage activities, you're stuck answering like the same team questions and the same client fires. Your business is going to grow slower as a result because you're not being used at your highest.
100%. I think that stepping away part is like huge, because it's not just you drinking mimosas on the beach. It's like how like scalable and like healthy your business is. And it's hard when the hardest thing that I've noticed, like really for me, is like I've hired people that have been with me for like years now, and my biggest fear is like losing them, but also not allowing them to grow to their full capacity and potential,
100%.
but also not moving them to a seat where they're not able to go. Because I feel like many times I've forced leadership on someone where I'm like, this person's not a leader. Like, he's a doer, and that's fine. But you have to, as a CEO, I have to identify leaders and doers and give people the opportunity to grow and give people the opportunity to get better.